Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Ambrose Blowfield here from the Sales Mastery Company, and welcome to part 3 in the 4-part series of growing your business in lockdown between the Sales Mastery Company and Gilligan Sheppard. The focus for today is more moving towards the sales side, because part 1, we talked about marketing strategy. Part 2, Lisa Garrud and myself talked more about that online marketing strategy. Part 3 is how do we pick up that phone confidently. And then part 4 is all about webcam selling, otherwise known as virtual selling. So let's have a look again about the challenges you likely face if you're in lockdown or jumping in and out of lockdown. Number 1, you can't always be face-to-face. Number 2, sometimes you're going to have to sell by webcam. Number 3, sometimes you're going to have to pick up the phone, whether that's a mobile phone or a landline. Sometimes people are in the office, sometimes they're on the road, sometimes they're in a holiday home. Probably shouldn't be, but sometimes they are. Sometimes you have to communicate via text message, sometimes via direct messages on LinkedIn or Facebook. And in fact remains is things are changing in the way you can reach your customers. But what does not change? Reach your customers, new and existing. If you've not been through parts 1 and 2 prior to now, please go back and watch them. And if you haven't been through them, you wouldn't know that my background was studying in Switzerland, in the UK, and in France. I studied a double business degree, so essentially international business with French bilingually, and also then progressed my career working in 10 different countries. We've done online training into over 20. And the thing we are most proud of, my wife and I, is helping 15,000 small to medium family businesses around the world make over $2 billion in extra sales based on the feedback they've given us. So that's me. Now let's focus around you. The great news is you are faced with a double opportunity right now, because whether there's an economic change within your sector, whether it's a national change or an international change, a couple of things happen. The first thing that happens is those people who do not have a marketing or sales strategy, those people who don't have strong leadership, and those people that don't have core values that builds their future based on effort, they tend to run and hide. What do? They sit at home giving loads of excuses about why the cat, the dog, and the children have stopped them from reaching out to their customers. They sit down and go, well, there's a global supply chain issue from this pandemic. I don't know what to do about it. There's no point in me calling people because I don't have the stock. In fact, there's every reason to call people now more than ever. Every time there is a change, people get nervous. And think about your customers. If they're nervous, who are they going to want to do business with after the lockdown, after they can place the order? With the people that they trust with, the people they're not disconnected from. So the moment people run and hide, it gives you the opportunity to be different. Next up, when the crisis is over, what happens is if you're moving regularly, if you're moving at pace, when the market picks up again and momentum happens, you're already used to working, you're already used to talking to customers, you're already used to doing something. As you know, in a world of shipping, it is easier. In fact, it is only possible to turn a moving ship. You cannot turn a ship that has no momentum at all and no engine to power it. The same goes for you and your business. If you stall or you hide or you sit back, you cannot develop its pace once things bounce back. So there's a double win for you to be had if you get it right. Let's look at some of the other quick wins we can have. Just calling our existing customers for no other reason than to say, how are you? Mental health in this country of New Zealand, as well as every country around the world, isn't the best anyway. Then you throw in the fear that comes from a global pandemic, the uncertainty that comes from a open and closed policy around different regions and different businesses and different sectors. And all of a sudden, people just want to be talked to. Just give them a call, find out how they're going, recommend their exercise routine, keep them encouraged to drink more water, to walk daily, to do something healthy for themselves. Likewise, if you get an opportunity and you're in lockdown or any economic slowdown, you've got to chase it like it's the last one you're going to get, because it might be the last one you're going to get. And I can guarantee if you don't treat it with the respect it deserves, you won't be getting so many moving forward. It's funny how the sales and marketing gods, if there were such things, how they watch you. And they go, are you hungry for more? I'll give you more. You're hungry for more? Absolutely, I'll give you more. Oh yeah, you don't want some? Okay, that's all right. We'll switch it off. We'll turn the tap on for somebody else. You'll stop getting lucky. So the thing we've got to understand when you make these calls is, what is your competitive advantage? The challenge you've got is if your customer's in lockdown, They don't want to hear you preaching to them about how amazing you are. What they want to hear you do is show care and respect for them, aligned to your values and aligned to what makes you different. So if your competitive advantage is we are more knowledgeable as a company than our opposition, then show that and go, oh, by the way, I was reading this recent statistic that said our bounce back is likely to be at this rate, or I was researching globally what the impact was post-lockdown and I found this. So if knowing your trade is a core part of your business, share that freely on the calls. This isn't the, oh, you should buy this from us. This is just literally make a call, connect to the human, and it's an easy way to get a quick win. Next up, assuming that the wider team in your business is also locked down like you are, and assuming that they are semi-busy but not fully busy, then ideally everybody makes calls. People know how to call their friends and family, so why shouldn't they make calls on behalf of the business? Those in a sales role or in a marketing role will tend to make calls related to the customer base that we've got. But why shouldn't our operations and dispatch team call, telling people if there's been a delay, telling people that the product's been distributed, or just calling customers they call regularly anyway with products to say, hey, how you going? You know, what are your plans right now? How's your family getting on? How are the rest of your team getting on? These are simple calls. And what does it do? It builds goodwill. The whole reason why a relationship is good is because somebody has invested effort into goodwill. This applies to your personal relationships just as much as your business relationships. So get the operations team and the dispatch team fit by making calls during lockdown to check in with their customers, keep people on the straight and narrow, keep people motivated. So when you go back to regular work, guess what? There's goodwill in that relationship. So if you do have a delay from operations and dispatch, customers are pretty much free and easy around that. Why? Because you built goodwill in a relationship. Likewise, finance or admin could call accounts people. Why? They're not getting called right now. No one in the world seems to care for them, except if either they want to be paid from them or they need to pay to them. So why don't you get your finance team to call the accounts payable division of every single one of your customers? Just say, hey, how you going? Likewise, if someone pays a bill in lockdown, thank you so much. We appreciate you paying it on time. Either way, everybody makes calls. Now, let's think about the calls themselves, because one of the most common thing people ask us for is tips around how can I be more confident when making calls. So the first thing here is the first ever lockdown you've ever experienced in the pandemic was the time to get people's mobile numbers as well as their personal email addresses. If you've not done that already, it's harder to get it in lockdown, but it is possible. What you simply say to them is, look, by the way, I know that we're both jumping in and out of lockdown and that you are busy, and I don't seem to always get through to you on the office number. What's an alternative phone number I can use? You don't even need to ask for their mobile. The alternative will be their mobile. If they say, oh, I've got a direct line, you say, that's great. Now, just in case you get stuck at home, how would I reach you? They're not going to give you their home number, but they're probably going to give you their mobile number. The second thing I want to stress here is, given that in lockdowns, people get, they'll go to a supermarket and they get told, oh, look, you need to go and self-isolate at home. What that means is your main contacts might not be there tomorrow because suddenly they get a message come up on their Tracer app that says, stay home for 2 weeks. So what you also need to be finding out is who is the backup person that I'm to call if you're not available, if you're home nursing someone, or if you have to go into isolation, who should I call? Don't ask when they go into isolation because they might legitimately be sick, rather than just being sent home to isolate. So the reality here is, who would I call? And what is their number? And what is their email address? And the great news is you put it into your CRM or database and you've got these key information details, which means eventually in 2 years' time, if your main contact leaves, you've now got the details of their 2IC. This is always advantageous. Number 3, get the backup to the backup. If they work in a sector that has been known to be locked down before, and known to possibly have a couple of cases, you have every right to say, and great, and what if they're not available? What if they're home in isolation? Sometimes you can get the backup to the backup. Now you've got 3 contacts where you only had 1. You've got the full details, and lockdowns are great to get people to open up. If you build goodwill and get them to share those details, that allows you to move at more pace moving forward. Because let's think about this for a moment. When there are no pandemics and lockdowns, what happens is the average human is going to be off on holiday for at least 4 weeks of the year in New Zealand. And then they're typically going to have about a week of public holidays and maybe a week of sick holidays, although that's been extended. The reality here is that's a lot of time away from work. If it's only 6 weeks and it's often longer, that's a 12th of the year. Sorry, 12. It's 12% of the year. Think about that for a moment. That's a huge amount. That means if you were to make 9 phone calls 8 times, they're going to be there. The 12th time they're not. I mean, seriously, think about it. Crazy numbers. So get the backup, get the backup to the backup, get it done right now. Equally, one of the challenges I find a lot of people have through lockdown from a mental health perspective is they struggle because they don't feel like they're achieving much. The first thing I say to them is stop trying to be perfect in lockdown. In fact, I don't think you need to try to be perfect at work on the best of times. Seek excellence by all means and seek to be better than you were last week by all means. But perfection, I doubt you can sustain that. In fact, I doubt you can even attain it. Why? We're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to strive for excellence, not for perfection. So please, don't beat yourself up. Set yourself a daily goal. I'm going to make 10 calls today. I'm going to make 5 calls today. Simple as that. Maybe you agree with one of your colleagues how many calls they're going to make. You check in with them on a text message at lunchtime. Challenge each other and say, look, whoever does that, when we go back into the office together, the person who loses buys the other one a coffee. Maybe have a little coffee tally between 2 people in your business. Have some fun with this and have daily goals. And then finally, if you're going to make calls, have some structure. Don't just start with a hello, yes, it's Ambrose, yes, yes. And the client's in there thinking there was no value in that. So a simple call structure is to think about a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning needs to be along the lines of, hello, this is Ambrose calling from the Sales Mastery Company. And if it was a cold call and it was business-like, I could say, the reason for my call is to find out more about your business and see if there's ways we can support you. Again, that's a pretty direct opening. It's pretty easy to say those words genuinely. I don't want to sell our sales training or our marketing strategy to people who aren't people I understand. So I do want to find out about businesses. I do want to be able to support businesses. So that'd be a cool opening. If not, you call existing client. Hello, this is Ambrose. I'm calling from Gilligan Sheppard. Just want to see how you and your family are getting on. As simple as that. This is me and this is the purpose of my call. Then if you are trying to get them to sign up to something, let's imagine if you're calling on behalf of Gilligan Sheppard and you're trying to get them to watch these videos for free, you might offer them a benefit. Look, we put together a 4-part series in both sales and marketing to help our clients grow. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in me sending a link to you. Or simply to put a 4-part series to help people grow through lockdown. How's it been for you? So you lead into something, you get the conversation going, or there's a hook with a benefit so people realize the outcomes of what you're going to deliver. And then, for example, a simple close in that scenario might be, would you like me to send it through to you now or later in the day? Or are you likely to, look, you'll need to set aside 20 to 30 minutes to watch each video. Will you be able to do that today or next week? Get them to buy into that, get them to commit into that. You know, or once lockdown, say for my business, it might be once lockdowns ended, it sounds like you're busy right now. It'd be good to tee up a Zoom. Now, what days of the week suit you best? So that's all it is. A lot of people lack confidence around sales by phone or even just making phone calls and, you know, in customer service. And most of you are going to do sales calls that are kind of customer service calls in lockdown. Seriously, start, middle, and end. Something warm to open that shows confidence, something that gets the conversation engaged, or you're pitching an idea with some sort of benefit and outcome, and then some sort of close. If you want to go a little bit further with opening statements, these are some of the tips you can keep in mind. The first thing to remember is you've got to be confident with your opening. That's the first impression. If it starts with a, hello, this is Ambrose, just too little, too late. It's got to be confident. Your tone has the biggest single impact on someone else when you are speaking to them. Your tone affects the way people feel about your phone call. So think about your tone. In fact, tone has 87% of the impact. Let's make a note of that number. 87% of the impact comes from your tone, which is a phenomenal amount. Then number 3, you can take an industry approach. I love this one because this is when you can leverage off the good work you've already done that you should be confident speaking about if asked. Hello, I'm Ambrose, calling from Sales Mastery Company. We've helped over 15,000 businesses in 20 countries make over $2 billion in extra sales. I'd love to ask you a couple of questions to determine if we can help you in a similar way. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to give you $2 million or $2 billion for that matter. The reality here is this is us. These are the people we've served. And this is it. Could be, hello, I'm calling from Gilligan Sheppard. We've helped 1,500 small to medium family businesses in the retail and hospitality sector grow their businesses by over 10% in the last 3 years. And people go, wow, I'm one of those. Oh, I should listen more. That's all you're trying to do in the opening statement, is get them to go, okay, I'll listen to more. Now let's flip that and go, well, what doesn't work? What doesn't work is you sticking religiously to a script, sounding like an overseas call center, that you're not listening to people, engaging people, that you don't ask any questions, you don't establish credibility, and you fire in with a script that in the background they can hear 3 other people saying the same script, because that doesn't make people feel special. So please follow those guidelines around opening statements. When people ask me around the world, what is the most important skill any salesperson or call salesperson needs to master, it is the ability to listen. And when I say listen, I mean really listen. Listen to what someone says, listen to how they say it, listen to the words they use, think about why they've used those words, not using other words. And the best way you're going to do that is clear the whole of your desk from distractions. Anything that distracts you. I know it's nice to see a photo of your kids or your cat or your pet, but move it to the side if it distracts you. Number 2, before you start making calls, whether you're going to make 1 call, 10 calls, or 100 calls, have a glass of water beside you, have a notepad beside you, or maybe your CRM open if you need to do that, and just clear your mind of everything else. So don't have a pile of paperwork you need to work through. Don't have an inbox shoveled full of other things. Don't even have your email inbox open. Just stop, breathe, think about your goal for the next hour or the next 30 minutes or the next 2 hours, write down what the goal is, and then start to call. The objectives is absolutely key. So the objectives is going to be one of 2 things. Either I'm going to make enough calls today until 3 of my customers say, yes, send me the link. Or I'm going to make enough calls today until 3 people say, yes, send me a proposal. Or today I'm going to call 13 people. So whatever your goals are, whether they're a straight KPI, key performance indicator of the number of calls you're going to do, or they're outcome based, write it down, have it in front of you, hang up the phone, look at the objective, hang up the phone, look at your objective. Likewise, as I mentioned before, you don't just listen to what people say, you listen to how they say it. You're trying to understand the thoughts and the feelings behind people's words. So what you'll do is 2 things. You will go deeper with some questions. You might ask a question and say, so how are you guys coping right now? And then they go, oh, we're going fine. You go, how are you really coping? Or how are you managing your team? Or what's a challenge you're facing? You could go deeper with some of your questions. You could ask questions that are good and solid and open-ended to make sure people open up. The fact remains is that when you make phone calls to customers, it is not about you talking. It is about you listening. If, like most humans on the planet, you were blessed with 2 ears and 1 mouth on phone calls, remember those ratios. You need to listen at least twice as much as you speak. Now, let's imagine your phone call can progress. Let's imagine you've gone from level 4 to level 3 to level 2 in lockdown. So you've got some restrictions, but not full restrictions. Things are starting to open up again. Then let's think about some of the common objections you may have been receiving and you may receive were we to be unblessed by another lockdown again. So one of the questions would be, a client might say, listen, look, can we just wait for things to get back to normal? Let's think about the last 18 months. I don't know what you think's become normal. I don't think anything's particularly normal, because in 18 months' time, when we're through this pandemic, looking at the rough experts suggesting we're about halfway through, the reality is we're going to be in this whole new world. There won't be any normal and nothing really changes. In fact, we just got to cope with the challenges of business. Think about the fact that over 90% of small to medium businesses in Australasia don't make it to the end of year 5. That's why they need a good accountant. That's why they need a good bank manager. That's why they need help with sales and marketing. That's why they need to hire good people, because 9 out of 10 don't make it. That's a terrible statistic if you're a betting person, where you're going to lose 9 times out of 10. Now, some of those people do go back to other well-paid jobs, so it's not a total disaster. I'm just saying it's hard work. So normal isn't normal. So let's stop and think about it. When can we get to the way to get things back to normal? You fire back the question, how likely do you think that things will be fully back to normal? To which they're probably going to go, well, they're not. To which case you go, fantastic. So let's make the best decision we can right now. Likewise, look, I don't know if I'm going to have a job next quarter, so I can't give time to this. Look, I understand. You need to show empathy there. It's got to be real. It's got to be empathetic. I understand. Now, for the business, because the business is going to outlast you, essentially. For the business, what do you think needs to happen? Oh, well, I suppose we probably need to think about putting this in place. Yes, you do. Number three, look, we're just going to wait and see. We're going to see how it works out. Well, from where you stand, how do you think things will change? Because a lot of people have been through this before. They kind of know what the outcome's going to be. They kind of know what happens when they get back to work. They kind of know what's going to be when they open it up. A lot of those objections are ones our clients worldwide have been hearing on and off for the last 18 months. And the key thing is, have your notes, have it written down, be prepared for those, and then just have that subtle and respectful pushback. Closing is arguably the hardest thing for people to do in the world of telesales, face-to-face selling, or webcam selling, which is part 4. So I just want to help you with a few aspects around closing. One is pre-closing. So during the lockdown, people have had delays in many ways, making decisions, having confidence, getting stock, getting supplies of all sorts. During the course of the conversation, you can use pre-closing. So what you could say is, if the client has talked about delays and the client has talked about out of stocks, you can leverage from that and go, to avoid further delays, how would you like to proceed? So what you're doing is you're not saying, would you like to proceed? You're just asking their opinion on to avoid those further delays. So that's one thing that most people will be avoiding right now. Number 2, be the expert. So don't be afraid to say confidently, remember, your tone has 87% of the impact of your telephone call. So you don't have to use all these techniques. You don't have to be polished and perfect. What you do have to do is sound confident. So I recommend, with a strong tone, I recommend, or I suggest. You cannot say them with the I recommend, because it doesn't mean you recommend. It means you're nervous and you're looking for them to recommend. You've got to do your work if you're doing a sales call or just a general call. And then finally, a last resort is, look, are you happy for us to be a backup supplier so that if and when your current supplier can't help you, you know who to call first? Now, that language is really, really important to master. I wouldn't necessarily have it written down word for word, but I would learn how to say something along those lines. Because what does that say? That says, I respect your current decision to stick with your current supplier, but I know they're going to let you down, and I want you to phone me first. You don't say, can I call you? You'll phone me first. It's a really good out for them and for you, and allows you to develop the relationship long term. Okay. Other opportunities that you've got to make continuous improvements to your selling or to your relationships is, remember that cross-selling and upselling will always be quicker and easier for you than new customer acquisition. What that means is, look through the list of your products and services, look through your database, call your customers. Once you've done that first call, maybe the second or third call becomes, oh, by the way, I was thinking about your business the other day, and they all go, oh, thank you. And there's a couple of things that you used to get from us that you don't currently. I'd love to talk to you about them. Or there's a couple of new services we offer I think could really, really help you grow or get more profitable. Or there's a couple of different products I've got that I think would be worthwhile us discussing. Have you got time now to talk? And I'll probably go, yeah, I'm in lockdown. Of course I can talk. Number 2, sometimes it might be better if a customer says, I can't afford your premium service anymore. I've had to make some cutbacks. I'm really under pressure financially. What you might be better off doing is to downsell them rather than just stop selling to them. So they still sit with you receiving an invoice every single month. You still have the excuse to call them every quarter. The relationship has changed, but the relationship hasn't stopped. So an example is, when lockdown first hit, we changed some of the software for our online training. But the software that we left from, the LMS system, the learning management tool, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of content. So we said to them, we're not going to use that platform for our customers anymore. Is there a way for us to still have our account? And they said, absolutely. You pay about 1/10 of what you had before. You just keep the videos there. You just can't share those videos with anybody else on the platform. So they've downsold us. So we're still getting their emails. I got one yesterday saying, here we are, here's some upgrades we've got. You know what? If the new software we went to didn't work out so well, we might well have been back by now. Number 3, allowing clients to have off days or even off weeks, meaning be forgiving with customers. If you call them and they're frustrated, or you call them and they're shouting to somebody, and you call them and they're distracted, or you call them and they say they're really, really busy, have some grace and just forgive people, because some people are going to have bad days. Some people might even have bad weeks at work. So just be really forgiving around that. And likewise, be forgiving to yourself. That's so, so important. I talked about mental health before. You know what? Some days you might make 20 calls, get through to no one. Some weeks you might go 100 or 200 calls, get through to no one. Don't ride too much of an emotional roller coaster. Just judge yourself on, did I put out the effort? Did I try? If the answer is yes, pat yourself on the back and move on. So in conclusion to this third part of 4-part series of Grow Your Business in Lockdown, if you do want some hands-on help with your marketing strategy, or you or your team need to build your skills and confidence within sales, then obviously reach out to me in the details on the slide right now. Equally, if you're wanting some of the marketing doing, especially in the world of digital and content marketing, do reach out to Lisa at Gilligan Sheppard to get some hands-on help and professional help at that. I've, of course, been Ambrose Blowfield on behalf of Gilligan Sheppard and ourselves at the Sales Mastery Company. As always, be sure to take action.